Success for me now, being an autism parent, is just seeing Elijah, making progress. I feel like that's success to me.
He's 4 now, and he's just now saying his first word. So it took him 4 years, to say his first word. To me, that's success. The comparison thing definitely is hard, but I would say to any other person who's going through this to, do your best not to compare. All right, so we are back for episode 2. Let's talk about it, autism parenting. In episode 2, it focuses on progress and not perfection. And so I want to start off with asking you a question about success. So think about success and what it meant to you growing up. But now that you are an autism parent, what does success look like now?
Success for me growing up, I would say is maybe the typical for some. I would say, obviously, I was an athlete growing up, so sports. I would say, the money, the cars. You just, you see celebrities and stuff. So that's where my mind was as a kid and teenager growing up. But I would say success for me now, being an autism parent, is just seeing Elijah, making progress. I feel like that's success to me. So like you said, you asking me what success is. When he's going to his therapy every Thursday, when you sending me videos, when you start seeing him say little words, just doing different things at the house, like that's what makes me happy. And I feel like whatever makes you happy, that's what success is. Everybody has their their idea on what success is, but it's different for different people. But I would say that's what success is for me.
Yeah, I would have to agree because I had the same dream growing up. I wanted to be a WNBA player, but that didn't happen. But that's okay. But ever since becoming, obviously success, I wanted to be a parent, wanted to be a wife, wanted to have the house, the cars, the money, and all that stuff. But once we had children, and once Elijah was diagnosed with autism, I think that did change my definition of what success really is. And so just seeing him every day, money, obviously, you need money, but money doesn't matter. The cars don't matter. The house don't matter. Like, all that stuff doesn't matter as long as, I see my child doing well.
All right.
And so knowing that there's milestones that, you can look at another kid who maybe doesn't have autism or doesn't have a disability, and you see them, progressing at the normal, what they call normal stages. And then you see our child where it took him, he's 4 now, and he's just now saying his first word. So it took him 4 years, to say his first word. To me, that's success. And so that changed my perspective on what success really is in life. Now that we talked about success, what's a milestone that he has reached that really, meant the world to you?
I would say just it's really the little things he does. Just like your parents just bought him that little train toy set.
Oh yeah.
And it goes from 1 to 10. And your dad was telling me, he putting them from 1 to 10 in order, and they all over the floor, and I'm like, yeah, okay. But we actually went over there, and it's in no type of order.
Right.
Different colors. 1 over here, 3 over here, 7 over there, and he actually know what number to put in place. So it's little stuff like that. It's just them they little, but they big. They big. Especially for autistic children. So I would say little things like that. Just pulling up his own pants, stuff like that. When he see me getting ready in the morning with lotion and stuff, I put a little in his hand, and he kind of rub himself, and so just little stuff is just that's huge for me. So I would say those are, like I say, they little, but it's big in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, because that's just like that reel that I posted a couple of days ago when he was, I was telling him to count, and he would repeat me. And so, again, like I said, he's 4 now. Right. Normally, kids, they start counting around, 2, And it took us 4 years to get him to be able to start saying numbers. And so that is huge. And the same thing with the train. They just bought it one day randomly, and nobody showed him what to do. Nobody told him what to do. He just, on his own, 1 to 10. He knew exactly where the numbers went. He knew exactly how they're supposed to be turned, because, you know, you could put a 7 backwards and think it's right, but he was putting it the correct way. And so those things are super huge to us, because you don't know what it takes to get there unless you are living that kind of lifestyle. And so I think that just seeing those moments, like trying to brush his teeth, trying to brush his hair, even with Jace. So he has a little brother. He's 7 months now, and when I see him interacting with him now, that's a milestone to me. Because before, Jace could be sitting right next to him and he don't pay him no mind. But now he actually, like, I'll tell him, give Jace his bottle. He'll do that. Give Jace this, and he'll try to do that. So just him at least trying to help in his own way, you know, those are milestones to us, and it's loving to see. So my last question for this episode, how do you stay focused on progress when comparisons are everywhere?
I would say at first that was hard. Like I say, autism is if you're not familiar with it, you just don't know. But I would say at first, you know, you always you know, through my head, I'm always, you know, looking at, you know, we have, you know, brothers, sisters, nieces and nephews, and, you know, everybody's just talking to their children, and, you know, they playing along, and, you know, different stuff like that. So in the back of your mind, you happy for them because it's your family. But in the back of your mind, you like, man, I wish, you know, it's been 3 years, you know, 4 years now, and I ain't heard my son. You know, I ain't had no conversation with my son. You know, so that's tough. You know, that's tough. You know, especially, you know, with me, you know, not having a dad growing up. So at first, it's tough to deal with. You know, it's tough to deal with. But now, you know, that's why we had these shirts right here say "different on purpose." You know, so now is you understanding that, you know, that this is just the way. This is God's plan. You know, you can't alter that. You can't change it. You know, there's nothing that you can do but trust God. So now my thought process is, you know, we just trust in God, and, you know, what happens is what happens. We just leaving it in His hands. You know, and that's all that you can do.
Yeah, for sure. Because I was like that for a long time, like comparing him to other children and what other children are doing. It's easy to do that because you see a kid, like you said, having a conversation with their parent, and you go to your child and they can't even tell you how their day went today. You know, we get in the car when he was first, when we first got him to daycare. We get in the car and you want to ask him, hey, how was your day? And you don't get no response. Like, I still ask him, but I know I'm not going to get a response. And so I think a lot of people, you know, who do have that, take those moments for granted because, you know, that's just something that their child is able to do. But when your child is not able to do that, have a full-blown conversation with you where they're not able to tell you, hey, you know, this happened today or that happened today, like, that's tough. And so it's easy to compare and say, man, like, I wish my child was able to do that or do this. But, you know, like you said, we just, in the back of our mind, we just got to remember that this is God's plan. And Elijah is touching more lives than we can ever imagine. And so I think that this whole situation is actually bigger than, you know, what the eye may see. And so I'm just thankful, you know, for the progress that he's having. It's not perfect. It's not always peaches and cream. It's hard, you know, especially when you don't have there's no guidance for this. There's no book for this. Like, you just kind of got to take it day by day. The spectrum is so wide that, you know, every child is not the same. And so every situation is not the same. And so we don't have any history of autism around us. So, you know, it's like we're the first people that are navigating this life, basically. And so yeah. the comparison thing definitely is hard, but I would say to any other person who's going through this to, do your best not to compare,
Right.
because the more you compare, the more you miss out on the
Yeah.
good things that are happening.
Yeah.
All right, so this was episode 2. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for episode 3.